Alrighty, how's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Thank you guys all so much for chiming back in for your latest Bleav in Queens episode. Myself, Wardy, that you know, especially here on YouTube. That is Joe Sorallo. Anthony Recker is not here with us like he was last week while Joe was gone. So, of course, they have to flip-flop. God forbid they're with each other at the same time here the past couple of weeks.
You know, if Recker was a considerate co-host, he would do what I did last week and at least show that he cares about Bleav in Queens by chiming in from the car. All right? Like last week, I think I showed my passion. That was on full display.
That's a good point. I honestly forgot for a hot minute that you were in the car for like the
Come on, man, 15 minutes. I did a 15-minute spot from Sepulveda.
Exactly, doing your little rant on the Hall of Fame, as you should, by the way.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Absolutely. So we're going to be breaking down all the latest for the Mets. I mean, for audio listeners, you already heard my raw reactions to the McNeil extension, but we're going to be expanding further on it. Want to hear from Joe, especially what are his thoughts on. We'll go into the contract details. McNeil had his presser today, going to share just some comments that he shared during their time there. And what is next for the Mets now, because there's more reasons to believe than ever that an Alonso extension could be more greater now with McNeil having been done here by the Mets. So the question is, when will that happen? What is the price point aside from what we've already discussed a little bit this offseason? Then we'll get into a little bit more on just the overall Mets and all the latest moves that they've done so far, news, rumors, all that fun stuff. And let me just double check my notes real quick to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Oh, yeah, the big discussion is Shohei Ohtani. Yes, I know that looks like Ohtani probably won't have a decision until at minimum next free agency, if not the trade deadline if he is dealt anywhere. But rest assured, the Mets are already looking to be a top dog, a top contender to potentially land the best player in baseball. Plenty of that and more coming up. But before we get into it all I ask is that you guys make sure to smash those buttons here on YouTube. Greatly appreciate. And of course, I'd let you all know that today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs. So make sure you head over to betonline.ag using promo code Bleav at BLEAV. That way you get yourself a 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline, it's where the games begin. And now, Joe, let's let the show begin. I think this is episode, I want to say it's 45 if we're counting the McNeil one I did solo.
Right. I was going to say 44, but I might have forgotten about the McNeil one.
Yeah, I think it's 45. So
Tyler, at this point, it's safe to say we're balls deep. That's where we're at.
Yes, God forbid we don't go 5 minutes without trying to make some type of sexual reference.
You know, right, Joe, I'm already I'm upset thinking about like the number of like which show this is. This is 45, by the way. It's the Pedro Martinez episode.
Yes, it is.
But number 40, we will not have deGrom for episode 48. Not that we would have had deGrom anyway, but would have been nice episode 48 to, you know, at least think about Jake, or at least say it's the Jacob deGrom episode. It's no longer the Jacob deGrom episode.
And it's funny that you bring up Jake, because before we get into the McNeil news, I want to hear your thoughts on that. We did see just come out an article over the past day that apparently, according to Buck Showalter, Jacob deGrom had said to him how he was fully expecting to be a Met. And
is
your chair too low?
That's better.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, you look like a giant as is. So, I mean, it stands out perfectly. So, going back to my initial comment, though, apparently deGrom, according to him from Buck Showalter, is that they had a discussion that he hopes to discuss with Buck later on in his career, like what actually happened between him and the Mets, because he really thought that he was going to be back here. Now, that might be a little contrary to belief than what we initially thought. It seemed like Jake, won the bag. Apparently, the Mets didn't even get the final say in an offer, even if they weren't going to offer him the money he was necessarily looking for. They weren't even in there in the final day of negotiations before he went over to Texas, apparently. So unless that is wrong, and we're going to find that out down the road, it's interesting to hear. But again, I don't think we need to harp on it much more. It is what is now. Jake's in the past. We'll always appreciate him for what he did in Queens, but now it's time to focus on the brighter things in life, like the Justin Verlanders, for example. So with that being said, Joe, let's get into what has been exciting, and that is Jeff McNeil, a surprise extension out of nowhere. 4 years, $50 million. And if we break down that contract just in the nitty and gritty here for a second, so viewers know, or listeners rather, $6.25 million in year one, $10.25 million in year two, $15.75 million in year three, $15.75 in year four, and he has a $15.75 million option for 2027 with a $2 million buyout. And I do believe that is a team option for 2027. So let me hear, what's your raw reaction to the McNeil news?
It's incredible. It's a great deal. It's team friendly. It's obviously McNeil friendly. He's not complaining about the contract, even though could he have gotten more in the open market? Yes, probably. But McNeil, he said it just today, I Bleav, was his press conference. He said, look, all I know are the New York Mets. I've always been a Met. I always want to be a Met. So everyone's happy. Look, the guy, at the end of the day, whether, he could have gotten 4 years for 50 with the Mets or maybe 4 years for 64 somewhere else. Either way, you're talking about a guy who has now created generational wealth for him and his family, his kids, his future kids, his grandkids. The guy's set for life. He's with the team, with the teammates, I think most importantly, that he wants to be with for at least the majority of the rest of his career. Him and Alonso have an undeniable great chemistry. Him and Francisco Lindor seem to have improved their chemistry last year from where it was at 2 years ago when they're fighting over raccoons and rats in the dugout. I mean, McNeil, Wrecker has spoken on this show about McNeil's attitude from a couple years ago. This year we saw a 180, and we saw a guy who wants to be a Met for life and a guy who I think will be a Met for life. It's the perfect contract. And I love that it's backloaded, because normally backloaded contracts can get you into trouble. But McNeil is still, the style of player he is, the guy plays hard, plays 110% every time. Plus, he's also, he's not a guy who's going to, maybe hit 40 home runs this year, and then you might see a decline 2 to 3 years down the road, right? He's a contact hitter. He's got great bat control, great barrel control. I think he'll still be a great contact hitter in 3-4 years from now. And the backloaded contract helps the Mets save a little money now when they're paying ridiculous, exorbitant amounts to guys like Scherzer and Verlander. And then in 3 to 4 years, when those guys are off the books, McNeil will get that spike from 6 to 10 to 15 ultimately. So I think it's a really smartly constructed contract. It's a team-friendly contract. And I'm just excited Jeff McNeil wants to be a Met for the foreseeable future.
As am I. And before I expand on my thoughts here, I just want to say, move the mic up a little bit. I think that'll help your audio.
Oh my God, everyone's a critic.
I know. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure there's not too much of an echo. See, you have a very similar mic to the one that I have from the holiday. I still need to set it up though, because I'm missing like one piece. It's a Shure mic. It's similar to that. It's slightly different. Sure, exactly. But yeah, no, great thoughts on Jeff. And for me, it's funny because last time that we spoke together, or 2 episodes prior, whenever it was, when we discussed potential extensions with the Mets, you and I were in agreement, Joe, that McNeil looked like he'd be the more likely to not be extended between the two, him and Alonso. And to see the type of deal at 4 years, $50 million, it really doesn't get much better than that. How can you dislike this deal if you're a Mets fan?
Right, you can't. And what I worried about with McNeil was like, are the Mets going to give him 6 for 120? Probably not. Well, obviously the numbers weren't even close to that. Like, there were people saying McNeil would command a Nimmo type contract, and that wasn't even close to the case. Now, I thought 4 for 64 was probably more realistic, maybe like a 4 for 72 even. 4 for 50 is a freaking steal. That's like, given inflation and today's contracts, Jeff McNeil to win a batting title and be kept for such a cheap team-friendly deal, that's insane. But, those are the kind of guys you want. I'm all for, as an athlete, as a player, go get the bag, go lock up that generational wealth for your family. I'm all for it. But, McNeil, he really showed that, hey, what's the difference between 50 mil and 64 mil, right? Like, either way, I'm set for life. My kids are set for life. I want to be a Met. I want to win. That's what I love about Jeff McNeil so much. The guy, all he wants to do is freaking win. And I think the Mets have a lot of guys like that. I think Francisco Lindor is like that. I think Pete Alonso is like that. I think Brandon Nimmo is like that. You go up and down this lineup, up and down this pitching rotation, Max Scherzer, right? Like, all these guys want to do is win. And those are the guys you want to surround yourself with. You don't want guys who care more about their paycheck than they do about the outcome after 9 innings on the diamond. So McNeil's the perfect guy for this team. I've always loved him since he came up. And, he's got a real shot. What I think is interesting, Wardy, is that, given the pace he's been on the past few full seasons, he's got a real shot to crack the top 5, if not the top 4, on the Mets all-time hit list by the time this contract is up.
And what's even more absurd about that is you think of when McNeil was brought up. He was a late bloomer, right? He was even older than Alonso getting into this. He's already at the age of 30. So, if McHits ends his Mets tenure, top 4 or 5 are hits, that would be amazing and rightfully deserved, because this is a guy who's now coming off of his first NL Batting Champ Award winning year. Silver Slugger. When you look at the year prior in 2021, not only with the lackluster play for the first time in his career, not handling the shift well, heavily shifted, and might add a McNeil player who's been so great at avoiding the shift, now working around it. now has one less thing to worry about for the next couple of years with the shift assumably gone for the most part. No more 3 guys down the first baseline, stuff like that. That's definitely going to help someone like him who can pull the ball from time to time when he's not spreading it for opposite field. But offensively, what McNeil has brought to this team in 2021, dealing with that hamstring injury, that took a lot on him emotionally. And you saw that. And that's what led with the Rat and Raccoon incident. That's what led to many rumors that ensuing offseason that, okay, it looks like we have a character issue here with McNeil. And if the Mets can maybe at the right price, a stud pitcher could be willing to part with them. Now, they decided to stay with McNeil, bring in Buck Showalter, change his coaching staff, bring in different management that has done nothing but wonders, getting back to his old game, and potentially still we may have yet to see the best Jeff McNeil. So I'm so excited for him and the next 4 years in Queens. I'm beyond happy for him, his wife Tatiana, their newborn, and the dog that they have. I think, is the dog's name Willow? I think it's Willow.
I think you're right. Wow. Yeah. That's impressive because if you didn't say that, there was no way I was pulling the guy's dog's name out of my ass.
Yeah, I remember when he first got the dog and it was adorable. I'm like,
I think
okay.
they might have 2 dogs now. They're big dog rescue people.
Oh, okay. So it's like the Scherzer way, because I know Scherzer does the same thing.
Is Scherzer, are they big into?
Yes.
Scherzer, I love these guys.
Sorry to cut you off. Scherzer even has the cattle dog with the 2 different colored eyes to match him.
Of course he does.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, they
have. I love these guys. In many cases, I love their wives too. I don't know enough about their pets.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you more about the wives in Queens than I could the pets.
Oh, color me surprised.
Welcome to the club, Kate Upton.
So yeah, I mean, regarding McNeil, any final comments you want to share, just besides the fact that this is beyond deserving? It's funny for me.
I mean, he's just like, he's the best pure left-handed hitter that the Mets have had since Keith Hernandez. Yeah. And that's no disrespect to, many other great hitters that they've had. No disrespect to friend of the show, Daniel Murphy. Don't forget, though, Murphy had a couple really good years. I think he hit 300 or maybe close to 310 once as a Met. Then he had the ridiculous postseason. But Murphy's best years, his batting title years, where he was, I don't know if he ever won a batting title, but he was like a top 2, top 3 finisher with the Nationals, hitting 330, 30 home runs. That all came regular season-wise after he left the Mets. So Jeff McNeil, best gap-to-gap left-handed contact hitter we've seen since Keith. You mentioned the 2021 struggles. I think it's because McNeil was just trying to hit for power too much. And when he tries to hit for power, he pulls the ball and he strikes out more.
And they were too analytical too. Keep that in mind.
100%. When he just, see the ball, hit the ball, as simple as that. I mean, he'll spray it everywhere and he'll hit 330 the rest of his life if he keeps doing that. And I think that's what he's going to do because it worked. The Mets don't need Jeff McNeil to hit 20 home runs. He's capable. But I'd rather him hit 10 and bat 330 and let Lindor hit 30 home runs. Let Alonso hit 40 home runs. Let Marte, when he's healthy, he's a 25 home run shoo-in when he's healthy. The Mets have enough pop. I know people have knocked them for their lack of power. I truly believe they have enough. And when they get Shohei Ohtani in July, they'll have even more.
And that's a good segue. But right before we get there, my final comments on this is that, McNeil, when I initially broke the news, like on the YouTube channel, and I put it on audio for our Bleav in Queens podcast, a lot of comments I got on YouTube, especially, were saying, I'm honestly upset for Jeff on, it felt like an underpay. I mean, universally, Mets fans were like, this guy probably should have gone more. And I honestly feel bad for him. I'm like, I get that. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is great for the Mets. And he's obviously ecstatic.
Yeah.
I mean, look, could Jeff have gone more? Yes, there's a possibility he could have. Maybe if he either waited a year or even waited free agency. But keep in mind that McNeil, by the time he'd hit the free agent market, he'd be around the age of 33. You'd have to hope he'd be fully healthy. I mean, guys that are his type of play style, like the Ben Zobrist of the world, how much more of a bag are you going to get versus what McNeil just got there?
Right. I mean, look, God forbid an injury happens. Look, he had the money right in front of him. He took it. People, I get it. He could have gotten more on the open market. If he was in the open market this year, for sure. I understand that. But I feel bad for the guy. Guy just locked up 50 mil guaranteed with a chance to make over 60 if that 50-year team option gets exercised. I'm not feeling bad for anyone who's going to make 50 mil over the course of their lifetime. But McNeil, like you said, Tyler, he's ecstatic about it. So why would you feel bad? He is thrilled to be here. Look, we were talking about it. Obviously, he had the picture of Citi Field, that, what was it, an Instagram story last week that seemed cryptic. And then late last week, I know I told you and Wrecker this, he was at, I think it was actually last Tuesday, the night of the night that we recorded Bleav in Queens when I was in the car. He was at the Syosset Baseball Gala on Long Island, my hometown of Syosset. My little brother and little sister both play Syosset baseball and softball. McNeil was at the gala. He was the guest of honor. Little bro got a great picture with him. I mean, obviously he's smiling for all the pictures, but McNeil just, you could tell, I don't know. Some people might say he was smiling because it was a photo op. He looked happy to be there. It didn't look like he was, forcing anything. We see sometimes these guys, they go through the motions, Jeff McNeil, I really Bleav, wants to be in New York, wants to stay in New York, wants to be a Met lifer. I don't know, everything I've seen the past week and a half that led up to this extension being formally announced, it just seemed like it was inevitable because Jeff McNeil wanted it to happen.
And when you looked at his presser today, I mean, it just reaffirmed that. He said, I've been in the organization since 2013. New York is my home. This is where I want to be. I can't imagine myself anywhere else. That's just always great to, it's just always so nice to find out that, homegrown talent wants to stay here and be here long term. That's what we need to see more of, which is going to be a nice transition soon into Alonso, etc. But one final tidbit on McNeil from his presser today, for those that aren't aware, Lindor did make an agreement last year with McNeil that if he won the NL batting title, he would be gifted a car from Lindor. When McNeil was asked today on if he has been gifted a car yet from Lindor, McNeil said no. But I did recently send a video to Lindor of a couple cars that I have in mind. So if it's any one of those, then I'll be very happy.
Did we see which cars they were?
No, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that they're worth a little bit of a pretty penny.
I want to call him McLaren McNeil.
McLaren McNeil. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I might tweet that at Lindor. McLaren McNeil, how you doing?
Yeah, how you doing? Make it happen. But yeah, I don't think there's much more that needs to be harped on regarding McNeil. We're so happy for him. Again, the hits guy himself. Hopefully this is the first of many batting champs that he brings to the NL. And things will even be more interesting this year because the AL batting champ is now in the NL East. That being in
Luis Arias?
Yeah, Arias. I don't know why, but I was thinking Omar Narvaez.
Oh my God. You know what? I get it.
Yeah, a little bit similar last name, but I just completely blanked for a minute. But let's go now from the McNeil talk to, okay, we saw McNeil happen. Now, when's Alonso happening? Because we have heard rumblings that
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. But the question is, when? Because originally we were seeing reporting first Michael Marino. Shout out to Michael as well, a good friend of mine, a great independent reporter on social media. Did break news today, like for the first time ever, on a signing. I'm breaking that Zach Green had signed with the is it Zach Green from the Yankees? Chad Green. Zach Green's on the Mets. The other Yankee.
Didn't the Mets Rule 5 him?
Yes, they did from the Yanks. So Chad Green signed a multi-year deal with the Blue Jays today, and he broke it. So Ken Rosenthal, we're all crediting him as first. So shout out to you, Michael. Happy for you. But Marino,
we got Tyler mixing up Arias and Narvaez.
I know.
Chad Green and Zach Green.
It's off-season content.
Next, instead of Joe Cirillo, he's going to call me Jeff Cirillo, the old Brewers utility guy.
I'm going to just call you Joe Schmo. That's what I'm going to call you.
That's appropriate too.
Yes. But yeah, going back to what he was initially reporting after the McNeil news was that there is a little bit more pessimism on the Alonso front at the time, just saying that it seemed like as in now trying to get an Alonso extension done before the season begins is quite the uphill battle. Now, since then, we have seen reporting to indicate that all kind of stars are aligning that the Mets are going to definitely try to get something done. But if they don't get it by the time the season begins, it's not to denounce a possibility of either mid-season, after the year, as long as they get an extension done with Alonso before he's going to be set to hit the free agent market in a couple of years. That's truly all that's going to matter at the end of the day. And
I mean, we have so much time when it comes to Alonso. I'm just pulling up his contract right here, and according to Spot Track, which is the best for any contract questions, we have, how long is he under contract for?
He's under contract until 2025 offseason.
Bam, there it is. It was on the wrong tab. Yep, UFA 2025. So we got 2 more years of Alonso. I mean, if it doesn't happen this offseason, it's a guarantee that it'll happen next offseason. He's not going to reach the open market. It's going to be at least like an 8-year, 200 mil situation. 25
8-year, 200 mil. Exact. 8-year, 200 to 230 is like my guess. I think that's
he's making 14 and a half this year off arbitration.
Yeah, he's the highest paid guy pre-arbitration ever in the history of MLB.
Okay, go off, Pete. 14 and a half off ARB. I missed that number completely. This is the first time I'm seeing that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Most among first baseman in MLB's history. And it's funny because when you double that, you get to 30 million.
Can you hear
Joe,
me?
I hear you, but your camera just cut off. It's okay.
This is why I said just let me use the webcam. I didn't want to use the camera.
Did the camera die? Is that what just happened?
I don't know, man. I don't know what happened here.
It's okay. We'll still.
I'm gonna get the production team. You can carry for a minute.
Okay, you carry for a minute, and why don't you text me when you're back in the show? Okay. Well, while Joe has technical difficulties, for those that don't know, Joe is at the Bleav Network studios right now as they're trying to get this figured out on his front. The camera just went off. I think it died because that looked like good camera quality, which makes me believe that it's not just a normal webcam. I think he's using an actual camera, and they usually
I am,
die.
Tyler. Yes, I am.
Exactly. So I think the camera just died here. My buddy, the same thing happens to him. Like literally every time he records. So he usually has two cameras set up, his main camera and then a webcam to the side.
Are you telling me I'm incompetent now because I didn't have a second backup camera ready?
I'm not saying you're incompetent. I'm just saying,
Tyler, I'm kind of done with your bullshit at this point.
Bullshit, says the guy with the black screen. Come on.
Hey, I look great right now. All right. I don't know about you, but I'm sure our viewers can attest to it. I look fantastic right now that they don't have to see me.
While we're in this little hiatus, let me answer.
We'll call it purgatory. We're in purgatory.
We're in purgatory. Kish, thank you for the $5 donation. Great member on YouTube says McNeil, sure. Alonso, okay. Ohtani, yeah, I get it. When is the Vogelback is looking that stream? Also keep up the hustle, man.
Thank you, Alex.
That's fine.
Did I hear Vogelback?
Yeah, it says when is Vogelback is looking fat stream. What? That's funny. Oh my goodness, we just got a shirtless Serralo on episode 45 of Bleav in Queens. He's got the Vogelback shirt on. Kish, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Really does mean a lot. That was hilarious. Oh my, you guys just got OnlyFans content for free. You realize this?
I know, and there's a reason the donations are coming in hot and heavy right now.
I know, that's great. Okay, so the camera is now focused.
Thank you, Alex. Shout out to Alex Nisopoulos, by the way, our lead producer over
thank
at
you
Bleav.
so much, Alex. Appreciate you. Fantastic job.
Because I would have joined from my phone if we had
I mean you
I'd have been like, fuck it, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
You gotta do what you gotta do. The Dodgers just agreed to a 2-year extension with Tony Gonsolin. Breaking news.
Better than Trevor Bauer.
It is better than Trevor Bauer. That's true. But we're not here to talk about the Dodgers. We're here to talk about the Mets. So speaking of a team that will be in, speaking of a team like the Dodgers, the Mets also are in on a man making twice as much money as Alonso, just through pre-arbitration, that being in Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, I got to change my pants. You said Ohtani. I got to change my pants.
He's making $30 million on his 1-year deal this year, which is just asinine to think about. For an arbitration deal, I should say. It's pretty crazy. But that's Shohei Ohtani. When you're the best player in baseball and you see Artie Moreno, the biggest schmuck of an owner in baseball, along with the Castellani and Cincinnati and, the other schmoes around there.
Can we send Moreno a schmuck shirt?
Oh, we should. That would be amazing.
Like one Angel's way. Shit, I'll drive it down.
Moreno isn't only one of the few schmucks that denied Steve Cohen becoming owner a couple years ago. He's also an owner that just had his team up for sale for the past number of months, but has decided to retract and take him off the market. He says, you know what? I got unfinished business here, baby. Let me get back involved. Too involved. That's the same thing between him and Steve Cohen. Two very active owners. They get involved in their negotiations a hell of a lot, but the biggest difference between the two is only one has any clue on what they're doing, that being Steve Cohen. Well, Artie Moreno, just like how Billy Epler was the former GM with the Angels. Look at the vast difference. I mean, Billy Epler was on a record on really wanting to pursue heavy after pitching, and then when they couldn't land the Garrett Coles, the Zach Wheelers of the world, just said, let me save the money and wait till the next offseason for more pitching. No, Artie Moreno steps in. He's like, I want Anthony Rendon. And he goes and signs Anthony Rendon. That is just one example of the incompetence that is Artie Moreno. So now they still owner for the Angels. The likelihood of Shohei Ohtani staying in Anaheim is so slim. It's just a matter of when is he going to be dealt, right? Is he going to be dealt at the trade deadline, or is he going to just hit the market and be gone in free agency this upcoming year? But if there's one thing that we do know, and again, I understand it's early, but when you're talking about the best player in the game connected to the New York Mets, by God, we're going to talk about him quite a bit this year. It's going to get exhausting until we find out a resolution.
Gonna get exhausting? I think it's already exhausting. I mentioned Shohei Ohtani every chance I get.
That's true. You've been talking about him since really we've started the podcast, because even last trade deadline, there was some rumblings of Ohtani. Nothing seemed like it was significant, but there was a little rumblings, and the Yankees even went hard after him. Apparently, they just I'd imagine that their version of hard is sending the Miguel and Duhars of the world.
I was gonna say and Duhar and Kiner Falafel. Like, I mean, you're not gonna get Shohei Ohtani unless you're sending Anthony Volpe and Jason Dominguez over there.
Exactly. That's great. But that's how they've been running for multiple years. They've been very stubborn with giving up the prospects. But Ohtani will be available, and the Mets are already in. Steve Cohen has already been reportedly discussing with the higher-ups and management for the Mets in their front office on an Ohtani pursuit. And while he's not going to comment much more beyond that right now, other from what we've heard, there's full belief that with Billy Epler being the GM that originally signed Ohtani to the States, to the Anaheim Angels, to pair him up with Mike Trout a couple years ago. Being the same GM that just brought in Kodai Senga and Flushing, Queens, a great area for Asian descent and building that market. Not to denounce what you can also get in San Francisco and other areas. I know that there's a lot of great areas for Asian descent, and marketable that would be for Ohtani. I mean, you could even say that, Ohtani going somewhere like Toronto would be marketable. Seattle, a lot of places would, right? For generational talent like him. But rest assured is that whether the Mets land Ohtani or not is yet to be seen. But what's been reported was 100% accurate. The Mets are going to decide the Ohtani deal. How so, you might ask? Whether the Mets sign him or have an offer on the table, that offer is going to be so astronomical once he hits the free agent market, assuming that he isn't traded somewhere at the deadline and isn't signed long-term there. Is that possible? Yes, it is. I think you look at the Dodgers. I am looking at them. I think you even look at the Padres just because they're crazy. I mean, AJ Preller's nuts. I don't think they have enough assets for it, but again, they're just absolutely absurd. They'll do their best due diligence here. Assuming that he waits until, say, next offseason, Mets are going to have more than likely a close to $500 million contract offer on the table for him. And if the Dodgers best the Mets, okay, then good for them. If another team bests the Mets, good for them. But the Mets are destined to set the market for Shohei Ohtani. So my question to you right now, Joe, is, one, how likely do you think it is for Ohtani to land in Queens? And two, what do you think is the more likely route to happen? Do you think that we won't find out a resolution on him being parted with until the trade deadline somewhere, whether that's the Mets or not? Or do you think it's going to wait until the free agent market next offseason?
I can't help but think, especially with the Carlos Correa deal falling through, that the Mets are going to trade for Shohei Ohtani. If Carlos Correa was a New York Met, I would have said that, that's it. The Mets are going to ride with this roster and they'll wait. They won't give up their prospects. They won't jump to do it in July. And Shohei Ohtani will be next offseason's project. If Correa was a Met, I would have said 55% chance Ohtani signs with the Mets, 45% chance he signs with the Dodgers. Now, I'm saying they try to trade for Ohtani. And if he reaches free agency, it's 70-30 chances Mets over Dodgers. But I don't think they're going to wait, because at the end of the day, their lineup is not that different from where it was a year ago. And, I think that they're going to go all in for Ohtani at the deadline. This is a team that can win 101 games without him. Can they win a World Series without him? I don't know. I think the pitching's better from last year, so maybe. But, you need that protection in the lineup. To have Lindor, Alonso, and Ohtani back-to-back. I mean, it's just as scary as it gets. Not even mentioning Marte, Nimmo, McNeil. So I think Ohtani is going to be a trade deadline acquisition. God knows we've got not the draft capital, the prospect capital to do so. Yeah, I think any deal. I saw something today, by the way, on Twitter. And if anyone else saw this, don't think it's true. I saw 10 years, $700 million. That
was an absolute gag. Yeah.
Yeah. Do not fall into that. But I think it's going to be closer to $500 million than $250 million than $250 million. Definitely going to be. I think the floor is $400 million, and I think it probably will exceed $500 million when he reaches the open market.
Yeah, and it's insane to think about. But again, Juan Soto's on pace to get that money. So why
isn't it insane if Carlos Correa was going to get what,
If Carlos
300
Correa was
and-
going to get $350 million, yeah, there's no chance that Ohtani isn't at minimum getting 500.
By the way, really quickly, can we address the MLB Network shortstop rankings and how the hell Correa is ahead of Lindor?
I've been trying to ignore these, Joe, to be quite honest with you.
It's all clickbait crap.
There's incompetence from everywhere, and Brian Kenny is at the top of the list. I'm sure Rec would know with at MLB Network. But my goodness, Kenny had Lindor as low as 7 or 8, while the entire analytical panel of MLB Network all universally had Lindor at number 1. Kenny's like asking why.
The only guy you can argue is Trey Turner.
Trey Turner, here's what I think. You want my personal rating?
Bogart is not better. Correa is not better. Dansby is probably 3rd.
I don't think Correa is better, but he certainly has potential to be if he can stay fully healthy.
I think I've never had 100 RBI.
But again, if he stays healthy and if he's in a deeper lineup, would Lindor have 100 RBI if he wasn't with the type of Mets lineup that they had last year? Again,
what did Correa? Didn't Correa have like 65? Lindor would have had more than 65.
I mean, but it's the Twins. I'm not reeling that RBI much there in Minnesota. Let's be real.
Even home runs though, like Correa. I mean, he's a lower power guy than people think. He's a really good average hitter.
I know it doesn't mean everything, but I am a big WAR guy. I really am. So that's where I see a lot of the value with Correa. But going back to my point is, I think right now the only shortstops that are completely ahead of Lindor is Trey Turner. I really think it's Trey Turner. And then, offensively and defensively, you can make the argument for Dansby Swanson from last year because defensively, Dansby was actually elite. I mean, just like Lindor, they were both elite in their own right. Offensively, Swanson was a stud too. They're like 1A, 1B there. So, when Rec last season, for example, was making the comments of I think Dansby's ahead of him, I don't think Rec was talking out of his ass because last year Dansby really was great. However,
I just think it's really close. I think Swanson was ahead of him in the first half, and I think by the season's end, I think Lindor, all in all, had a better year than Swanson. And I know Swanson killed the Mets in that late series, and the Braves won the division.
Swanson strikes out more.
He strikes out like a mother. You know what? I mean,
yeah, it's crazy. But I also think that Swanson's track record doesn't benefit him either. That's why I'm still taking Lindor on an overall ranking standpoint because that was the first true breakout year, right? So. And one thing that I think is going to benefit Lindor when looking down the road in comparisons with Turner is while Turner's an elite talent, we all know that he's going to be pain in the ass for the Mets so much for the next how many ever years it's going to be. One thing that Turner relies on heavily with his game is his speed. And when that speed is going to diminish over the next how many years, we'll see.
Right.
If that decreases significantly at all, that is going to be a major factor into his production because it is right now. And that's something that does not look to project great as he gets into then eventually his mid to late 30s and the second half of that contract. Lindor, what he does have the benefit of is Lindor isn't a speed demon. Lindor doesn't use speed to his advantage. He'll steal you back.
Fast as hell. He's fast as hell.
But again, he's not like.
Remember, speed doesn't equal stolen bases necessarily. Lindor, when he's on the base paths, anything to the gap, if he's on first base, he's scoring from first. Yeah. He is fast as hell, fast in the field, gets to shallow pop-ups in the outfield and whatnot. He's fast as hell. He's just not a base stealer the way that Turner is. Although Turner, I don't even think had 30 stolen bases this year.
I don't know. He didn't. I think he had 20.
His stolen base production was actually down this year. Even though his percentage was through the roof, the actual stolen bases were down.
I'm trying to think if there's any guy I'm missing. If there's anyone
top 5 for me, if you want to name a top 5 shortstops, for me, off the cuff, it's Turner 1, Lindor 2, Swanson 3, Bogarts, Correa 4. I'll go Correa 4 because of the glove. Bogarts 5. And Jeremy Pena's freaking creeping up on that list.
Yeah, I think Pena is going to break out a lot this year. And you know who I also think that.
So that's 6 guys I just named. Did I miss anyone?
You know who I think is going to really stand out this year too?
Troy Tulowitzki.
Yeah. I don't know how much this guy is expected to be playing in the outfield, so I'm not sure about too much. But Tatis, Tatis is only out for the first 20 games of the year.
Right, but he's not the shortstop anymore.
Yeah, he's not. You're right.
Yeah.
But if he's at all labeled shortstop again, if he does go back to that position and play it a significant period of time, I know that he has a boatload of errors, but he still can be a stud too.
Are they going to put him in left? Or are they going to move Soto to left and put him in right?
That's a good question. I mean, who has a stronger arm and right?
Soto's got a cannon, but Soto probably doesn't have the range. I mean, Soto's glove
Soto
this
was
year
also
stunk.
dog shit defensively last
Yeah,
year.
his gloves stunk. He's got a
But at the
cannon of an
same
arm.
time, Tatis isn't known for being a stud outfielder either. So it's
Right,
like
right. There's
kind
a
of
lot of unknowns there, but I
yeah,
mean,
picking your
that
point.
lineup can
Elite
wait.
offense, but that defense, I kind of don't know what to expect there.
The infield defense is off the charts though, with Machado. Bogarts is a good defender. Cronenworth's a really good defender. Ha-Sung Kim is a sick defender. Is Kim still a Padre? He hasn't been dealt yet.
Hasn't been dealt, and I don't think he's going to be at this rate.
There were some hot and heavy Red Sox rumors.
There was, but they just acquired, what's his face from the Royals?
Oh,
Mondesi.
What?
They just acquired Mondesi. So
yeah.
I mean, could they still go after Kim? Yes, but who knows? Either way, we're getting a little off track here. That was fun. Again, the reason why I don't want to get into the rankings much is because I really don't care. I mean, there's nothing at this point, especially you can agree, right? We're both doing this not only as a job, but because we're passionate, but we all have the ready information to really evaluate players and their talents. I don't need to go and look at a specific analyst and be like, oh, that's the way that it needs to be. It's not me when I'm 10 anymore. I can make my own rankings if I want. Because again, we all have the ready information. Whatever's most important to you, that's how you can base your rankings on. So Brian Kenny, by all means, have your opinion. Doesn't mean you're statistically right because you're not. Yeah. But rest assured, I know you're still going to have your opinion, and that's okay.
It's all right. I mean, well, he had Lindor 8th. Didn't he have like Jed Lowry 5th?
It felt like it. I mean, dude, he had like Bo Bichette and Corey Seager. Like, what are you doing? Seager.
I forgot Corey Seager. Who would I? Ooh, Seager versus Pena. Does Seager's
going to bounce back this year? The ship's gone.
He hit some homers.
Yeah, I mean, but offensively, he's going to get better this year. I'm telling you.
He deserves some more love because I didn't even have him in my top 6.
But he's not an elite defender at all, though.
No, he's not. Bichette, I think, is a step beneath the 5 guys.
Yeah.
Pena's glove is so good.
Yeah. Bo's glove is not good. So.
Is it bad? I don't know enough about him defensively. Is he a liability in the field?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that'd keep him beneath Pena. In my rankings, at least.
Yeah, like I don't have their OAA numbers in front of me, but I know Bichette has not been good defensively.
What would you say the top 3 most important defensive positions are?
Defensive positions?
Yeah.
Shortstop number 1. 2, I
go center field 2, catcher 3.
Yeah, I was thinking catcher 2. Just because, we've seen bad catching.
Yeah.
And we do see the market makes. I mean, if a guy has constant pass balls happening, or if he has literally no arm, I mean, guys just know to run, or bad play calling. I mean,
if you're making up for it with 40 home runs, a la Mike Piazza, we can live with it.
Exactly. But like when Wilson Ramos was so bad that like Syndergaard and other guys were stubborn to not have him.
Well, all right. Noah Syndergaard is the worst pitcher in baseball holding guys on.
No,
he had the slowest.
I'm talking about game calling. I'm not talking about stolen bases. I'm just talking game calling and preference. I mean, there's a reason why deGrom has favored Nito for multiple years.
Right.
And the majority of that staff felt like because Nito was one of the top defensive catchers in all the game last year. Hence his extension. Happy for you, Nito Kane.
Love Tomas Nito.
We all love Tomas Nito. So yeah, catcher, center field, shortstop in any order, I think is fair. And also, guys, just want to let you all know before we wrap up the show, because we will be doing it very soon. Just want to thank you all so much for being here. Continue smashing that like and subscribe on YouTube. Really does mean a lot. Help us get to a couple hundred likes whenever you're watching this. So make sure to rate, review wherever you get your podcasts. Ed with the quick donation says, once a push-up contest between Joe and Wrecker. I'm a little offended, Ed, only because I literally was a push-up king in high school. I'm not too far removed.
That's because you got those short arms.
I got the short arms. I was on the fitness team. You had
I got like the 6'10" wingspan over here.
Yeah, you got the wingspan, but yeah.
No, I mean, dude, trust me, it's a big disadvantage.
I know. I would take push-ups right now. Rec would have us both beat because Rec is like that perfect balance of just ripped and not. He's not overly tall.
Perfect balance. Rec is just perfect. I mean, he's Adonis. Like he's Adonis Wrecker is what we got to call him.
How tall is he? Like 6 foot?
Rec?
Yeah.
I think he's about 6'2".
6'2"? It's a little taller than what I thought.
I think. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't take the tape measure out when we went out for drinks last week. I think Rec's actually on the West Coast with me right now.
That is true. Yeah, how far away is he from you?
He's about 4 hours north.
Oh, okay, just a tad away.
Yeah,
Same state though.
big state.
CD with the donation says, I wondered the other day why Epler didn't go after Contreras as Alonso protection under 100 million in the same protection. Oh, it's as simple as this, CD. You're not going to give Wilson Contreras that type of contract when you have two of the top 3 catching prospects in all of baseball expected to hit the bigs in the next couple years. That's why. Wilson Contreras is not good defensively. His bat has been up and down. Would have loved him at the trade deadline, but for what he looks like he's going to progress at, which very well could be DH towards the latter half of his career, don't need to do that. Don't need to put more of a barrier in the way than what you already have for the Francisco Alvarez's and potentially, as long as he's not traded, the Kevin Paradas of the world. I mean, this is the first time since 2011 that the Mets have 2 top 3 catching prospects that any team does, might add, not just the Mets.
Right.
So the Mets are in great company. That Parada pick was phenomenal, and hopefully they both stay true and develop in the Mets organization. We get a lot of great outings out of them.
I can't wait to trade Parada for Ohtani.
Yeah, if you're going to trade Parada, Ohtani's that exception, absolutely. And that's going to bring a lot of hot debates as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. But first, we have this whole thing called spring training, World Baseball Classic, the season. So we're a little bit away before we get to the trade deadline. We're aware of that. One final note before we get out of here regarding the World Baseball Classic is Kodai Senga, who was originally committed to go with Team Japan, just like how the majority of the Mets starters will be involved in the World Baseball Classic. Senga will not be one of them. He has decided to stay with the Mets because he wants to get the full process, the full development of spring training, getting accustomed to playing North American ball. And that is exactly what I want to see. As much as I would have loved him with Team Japan and that absolutely loaded roster, I want to see Kodai Senga make sure that he's prioritizing what's most important. And right now, you can make the fair argument it's him getting his MLB career started. So happy that he's going to be with the Mets from the jump. I'll be in spring training for 5 days to a week at some point in March, so I'm excited to hopefully see him during that span. And the final notes is that Starling Marte may not be ready for his spring training, is not completely eliminated, ruled out from playing for Team DR yet, according to Billy Epler. That's a wait and see from the abdominal surgery he had this offseason. So another second straight year with Marte and the Mets, where he'll be beginning spring training not fully healthy. Again, just make sure that he's fully healthy to start the year or whenever he would start the year. That's all that matters to me. You need him down the stretch, something the Mets didn't have last year, and look at how much that ended up hurting them. Even though Marte played in the wild card series, he still wasn't 100%. You could tell. And I mean, who knows where they would have landed? Maybe still would have won the division if he was healthy in that final month of the season.
Probably would have. Would have. I'd say Marte's presence alone in that lineup over a guy like Tyler Naquin probably would have resulted in at least one win over Chicago or Atlanta.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. But with that being said, guys, I think that's going to wrap up the show. Not a long one today. We will be back next week, I'm sure. We have some fun guests coming on the show in the ensuing weeks, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. Very excited for them. But that is Joe Serralo at the Serralo Sports Talk podcast. Make sure to check him out there. Joe, you got any fun guests coming up? Super Bowl weekend's coming sooner than later,
Super Bowl
right?
next week. Stay tuned all week. Tomorrow got Ross Tucker coming on the show. Of course, former NFL lineman, Pats, Bills, Browns. Now he's with Westwood One as a reporter. So he's been doing sideline reporting for all these NFL playoff games. We're going to talk Conference Championship Sunday as well as a little Super Bowl preview. Next week, once we get down to Arizona, ridiculous guest list. More guys will be locked up by Friday, but just as of now, Levante David on Tampa Bay will be coming on the show. CJ2K, the old Titans running back. Robbie Anderson of the Cardinals. I'm not going to announce it yet, but a couple Hall of Famers in the works.
Yeah,
should be finalized.
Keep them guessing.
Friday. Wardy knows. Yeah. Might have to play puff pass with one of them.
Yeah, that's great. And guys, of course, make sure to check me out here on WardyNYM per usual on YouTube. I'm excited. My only announcement as of now is that I am planning to do a jersey giveaway this week, so hopefully we'll get that done on Thursday or Fridays when I'm eyeing a stream. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully, guys, and we're even in a video. We'll see. And aside from that, this weekend, as of now, I will be going to my first ever New York Knicks game at the Garden. So very excited. Knicks Clippers. Look out for your boy.
Real quick, Wardy.
Yes.
My first Knicks game. I've only been to 3 in my life.
Yeah, I've been to plenty of Ranger games, but not Knicks games. So that needs to change.
My first Knicks game, you were young. I was in middle school. Can you guess which Hall of Famer? He only played about 20 games with the Knicks. He was a trade deadline acquisition. maybe like 25 games as a Knick. Can you guess which Hall of Famers Knicks debut I went to? I wonder if anyone can guess it in the comments. I was in middle school, so we're talking approximately 12 years ago. He's a basketball Hall of Famer. Only played about 25 games as a Knick. Midway through the year, he was acquired. Tail end of his career.
I know who you're talking about, but I genuinely do not know the name. When I thought middle school Knicks right away for me, because in my 6th grade, that
Pre-Mello.
Okay, because when I was in 6th grade in middle school, that was Linsanity.
Right. But no, but this guy was, this guy's a Hall of Famer. Jeremy Lin's not.
Oh, no, I know. Just separate, just sharing my.
Are there any guesses in the comments? I can't see them right now.
Someone said Tracy McGrady.
Yes! My first Knicks game was T-Mac's debut.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, they lost in, I want to say double OT to the Thunder it was their first year in Oklahoma City.
Wow.
That was my first. And by the way, I went to 2 games that year. So I've only been to 3 Knicks games in my life. T-Mac played in 2 of them. And then the third was like their final day of the regular season 2 years ago when we went to the playoffs. We beat Boston.
Oh, 2020.
Yeah. By the way, Fan Appreciation Day. I think it was 2021, the 20 to 21 season.
Yeah.
If you can, go to Fan Appreciation Day. Everything is like 50% off at the Garden. Food, jerseys. I got an RJ Barrett jersey that was already on sale. It came out to $30.
When is that?
It's their last home game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, food's 50% off. Jerseys, merch, all 50% off. It's the only time it's actually worth it to go to a Knicks game. Because I'm a Knicks fan, but I'm just saying everything is so expensive.
Oh, yeah, it's highway robbery.
MSG prices are absurd, but if you go Fan Appreciation Day, they do the right thing.
They do the right thing. All right, I'm going to keep that in mind in the vault for the end of the season. But guys, thank you so much for watching, listening, wherever you get your podcasts. That's Joe. This is Wardy, and we'll talk to you guys all again next week, if not sooner. Have a great one, folks. Let's go Mets, baby.